It's a beautiful day here in Orlando, Florida. This is the Baxter Effect, John Baxter, and we have an amazing show for you today. I know it's been a couple weeks since our last show, and I've been traveling all over the country. And there are some topics that a lot of people don't know about, and to bring a guy, his name is Gavin Elliot, on the show. He comes from the legal side, the faith side, the fitness side of reality. And it's just awesome. I've known this guy for a while. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. His name is Gavin Elliot. And here we have him. Hey, Gavin, how's it going?
Good, brother. Good to see you, John. Thank you for having me, man.
Guys, I've known Gavin for almost, it appears to be almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
Early on in my business side of understanding, and Gavin's been there on the legal side. Just a remarkable guy that's so knowledgeable. He's a Mensa. I don't know if it's a grad. He's you might be able to tell it better, Gavin, of course, but he's in many countries. If you could touch base on who you are and what you do, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So the Mensa thing, to be honest, it's like since I came out of the womb, I've been good at standardized testing. I've always scored in the top 1/4% of every nationalized standard test I've ever taken. So by virtue of that, I got into Mensa. So Mensa is the high IQ society for the U.S. I submitted my test scores. You're in. So I got in. But I'm a lawyer. I'm a dad, and I'm a bit of a fitness freak. The lawyer side of me really. When most kids were like 7 or 8 years old, wanting to be firefighters or, a dragon. Nowadays, I don't know what they want to be. But I wanted to be a lawyer. There was a very traumatic experience. My family came from England. There was a very traumatic experience where my family had a successful business, and we lost everything in the U.S. court of law. But that wasn't the end of it. Like, my mom and dad broke up. I didn't see him for a while. Like, we went from living on the water to living in a very economically impoverished area, from I think it was a 4-bedroom, beautiful house to a 1-bedroom place, my 3 brothers and my mother and our cat, Gary. And it messed me up, man. It messed me up bad. And I still carry some of the weight of that. But what it did instill in me is the idea that I could never let how I felt happen to anyone ever again. It was too much. So it was at that point in time, I figured the best way to do that was to be a lawyer and fight for people and protect people and not let the American legal system take them down. This is not to say we have a bad system, but I believe whether you're Elon Musk, who I hold in regard, or if you're just Joe Schmo, like, you got to play by the same rules. And that's, that has sort of been a guiding principle in my life and in my legal practice, that I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how poor you are. For my own podcast, everyone has a story to tell. Everyone. But more importantly, for my life, I get to fight for my clients. I get to protect my clients from bad people. And listen, it's business law. It's business transactions and business litigation. I do both. And I'm licensed here, DC, and in England and Wales as well. I've been brought on as a consultant in Dubai. Like, I've assisted in a lot of stuff with local counsel. But there's always that purpose there of protecting and fighting for my clients. I mean, if I was half the lawyer for myself that I am for my clients, I can't even imagine where I would be. But that's my vibe. It's not about me or my ego or looking after me. It's fighting a good fight for my clients, making sure that they're protected. And I've known you for a long time, and I have had the pleasure of being a business attorney on a ton of matters. And the best thing that can happen to me in my legal practice is seeing my clients' businesses and lives grow and prosper. That is my mark for success. Don't get me wrong. I love to win a trial. I love to close a deal. But my mark for success is not those things. My mark for success is my clients growing and prospering. And that's what makes me happiest. So there's a whole bunch more to who I am and what I am. But like from the lawyer side of me, that really is who I am and what motivates me.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Gavin. And I realize that this term justice, it has two people involved. I guess there's a plaintiff and a defendant. Yes. And whoever has more money, it appears, has a little bit of an advantage at sometimes. And it appears like in justice, you need the best you can afford or get to protect your sanity, your justice, your livelihood, your health, your well-being, and to go through this at a young age, and you realize this is huge, and you do this, and I know your mission and purpose because I can sense it. But I never knew the whole story of why you're so passionate about helping people, and it's so important. Like in so many places, you always hear someone going through a lawsuit. They're going through pain, anguish. They can't kill the other person. They want to kill the other person. There's so much stuff, minutia, that is in this legal profession. It appears that, when you give someone the ultimate glory, and I believe it's justice is being served when the innocent gets released, and whether it be a criminal case or any case in that matter, that somehow the person that's doing the damage gets punished.
No, absolutely, man. I very much believe in the principles of justice, and you hit on a very valid point, bro. This idea of like money buying justice, and you know how you have the Lady Justice, she's blindfolded, and she has that scale. Well, I don't believe this to be 100% true, but it is to a degree that like you can drop some coins on one side of that scale and start adjusting it. And that's why I started as a public defender my legal career, to be honest. Like, and it was about protecting the disadvantaged. I represented the indigent criminal defendants. And it also, like, people would always ask the question, well, how can you represent them if they're guilty? I mean, to be honest, there's anything with kids I never had to deal with, and I'm really grateful. When I say kids, I mean like people hurting kids. I never had to deal with, and I'm glad I didn't, because I think that would have caused me a moral problem. But everything else, like almost everything else, I was like, by fighting for their rights, by holding law enforcement to its burden, and I have nothing but respect for law enforcement, but by holding them to their burden, I'm protecting my own rights. I'm ensuring the principles of freedom and due process and innocent to be proven guilty apply to all of us. Because once it stops applying at the bottom level, well, then they try to creep it up to the next level and have it stop applying. And then they try to keep it up and keep it up. And I think this is all the more relevant these days after what we've been through with a lot of litigation that honestly I believe was nothing but politically motivated. And to have someone searching out for crimes to try to prosecute someone is absolutely ridiculous. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. That does not mean do not investigate crimes, but to try to come up with a crime for somebody with no knowledge of that person ever having committed a crime for reasons that are largely political. That's disgusting. That is in direct contravention of the principles that this country was founded on, and which a system of law is supposed to stand by. So, I mean, it's, whether it's the public defender defending those people or someone defending the now President Trump, former and now President Trump, who went through a lot of, civil litigation, whatever, which is still important. but a lot of the criminal charges are all brought in the same state. It's a jury where everyone's probably going to hate him. And they're stringing together charges when there's no victim because the bank said that, no, we're perfectly happy, everything's fine. Like, to try to push that when you've got rapists and murderers and like people who hurt kids, and like, well, when you're focused and you're spending all this time and money on financial transactions where the victim is like, nah, we're cool. That was gross, man. And that's why, like, public defender is, in my mind, and state attorney, to be honest, as well, even though we butted heads, it's some of the most noble forms of practice, because you're really there fighting for both sides of the coin of what our whole system's supposed to be about.
Yeah, this state of affairs in the world where it seems like a little bit of lawfare, right? With like even politically motivated charge toward one party, where one party can't do anything and the other party could be attacked. It seems like it's against the law. Is it against the law to create evidence and sue someone?
Yeah, the fabrication of evidence let's be very clear. Gathering evidence, drawing conclusions from it, attempting to build a case based upon things that actually exist, that's fine. That's what we do. Creating evidence, no, that's fraud upon the court, and the whole system breaks down. There's this line you see in a lot of courthouses and a lot of courtrooms where it says, "We who toil here seek only the truth," and that, regardless of how. There can be different perceptions of the truth, arguably, and one thing may mean different things to different people. But the fact is, at the end of the day, we don't commit fraud. We don't create fake evidence. We don't come into a court with all, and this happens all the time, but the hopes of getting a lot of money when nothing actually happened. Like they're bully lawsuits, and once again, going back to your issue of the wealthy versus the poor, someone who's really rich, I'm going to stop using Elon Musk as an example because I like him, but like whoever the super rich person is, they can bury a normal person in attorney fees and things like that and ruin their life, and especially they can even potentially fabricate evidence and the other side doesn't have the resources to detect if it's fake or not. So it's very, very important that what be brought into a courthouse be truthful. And if it's lies and fraud, it breaks down the system. It really does. But we do have mechanisms to, like, there's this one case I'm about to jump on where there was fraud upon the court and they're seeking to kick off the counsel because the counsel was involved in it. And so there are mechanisms to prevent it. But if you don't have counsel there to fight for you, or if you can't present it properly, well, that fraud becomes the truth. And that's the last thing you want. You don't want, in life and in law, you don't want lies to become the truth.
These seem to be like a couple blind spots for the average person that would have to go through a legal event. I think everyone's eventually going to have to go through a couple legal events in their life, just by way of the way the system is and the state of the affairs of the world. What do you see as some of the blind spots that someone could run into when they're either going to sue someone or they're being sued? And I know that's a lot, but maybe you can tell a few blind spots where they have like someone that could look out for themselves much better.
Well, one of the things is there's moral and legally right, and the two concepts aren't always the same thing. It is unfortunate that sometimes you may have done nothing actively wrong, nor intended to admit something. So you're in a state of, from a moral perspective, of pure, innocence or no judgment should be entered against you. But sometimes the law, like you have strict liability standards, or you have certain statutes that have certain presumptions that even though you did nothing wrong, they may find you at fault as a matter of law. Like no fraud, no lies, no nothing. So a lot of people, I still think you should fight for what's right. And there are like impari delicto is one of those defenses where both parties are at fault. You can potentially do things to a breach of contract action, but you need to. There's two modes. There's survival mode and there's business mode in litigation. There's more, but those are the two broad ones. Business mode is I'm involved in this and I'm going to resolve this as a transaction. The third mode is personal. Survival mode is my whole livelihood depends upon this, so I have to fight with everything I got. So you don't get to make a purely business decision necessarily. And then there's personal mode, where you just hate the living heck out of the other person. And you have a valid cause of action, but money's not an issue to you. You're just going to do whatever is right, whatever you can to make sure justice happens. And I've litigated all three types of cases.
Nice. Tell me about your personal life. I know you're into fitness, and tell me about your fitness.
Dude, I love the gym. I go, like, my shoulder's messed up now. It has been for a while, but the pain comes and goes. And so, like, I literally went to the gym this morning and I'm moving my arm around to try to see what range of motion I can handle and handle the pain. Like, gym is life to me. There was a point in time where, and I referred to myself as Fat Gavin at that point in time. And that was up to like even 2005, where like fitness wasn't important to me. I was, to be frank, I was drinking too much. I was functional. I was going to work. I was doing my job. I was living my life. But, I was drinking way too much, and like it wasn't sustainable. And before I had my kids, I made a change. But when I had my kids, I knew I had to stay on that path because, as my son and daughter's father, I am an example for them. So if I don't appreciate the value of health, my kids won't appreciate the value of health. So I want to lead by example. My daughter's an amazing athlete. She still is, but we're trying to get her back into it. My son's 12 years old. He's like this tall, already got the six pack going, and like he does Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he takes on people much older than him and wins. And he is a little bit like his father. He's a controlled maniac, There is that maniac waiting inside, but it only comes out at the right times. So yeah, being a father was a big motivator for that. And listen, man, I remember when I was Fat Gavin, there were occasions where I would like get out of bed, turn my head too quickly, and I was stuck like that all day. So like I would have to drive like this to get places and stuff. But like that, I want to be. My parents are getting older, and I've seen the effects of age on them and other people who are elderly. And I want to be mobile and capable physically throughout my entire life. Now, one quote I do want to mention, and this is from my mom, is that the mind cannot perceive what the body cannot endure. So if your body is broken down and you have this pain and that pain, and you're less than fully functional from a physical perspective, the idea behind the quote, well, your mind's going to be distracted by these things, and it's not going to function at its highest levels. So that's why they're, traditionally you have the jocks and the nerds, you know what I'm saying? But like the truth is, especially as you get older, to maintain your mental sharpness, you need to have physical fitness. If you don't have physical fitness, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, your mental sharpness is going to fade. So it's part of this like whole triangle I have philosophically of spiritual, physical, and mental, where God gave me all these great gifts. And God gave everyone, by the way, not just me, but God gave everyone all these great gifts. God gave us life. And the only way I believe the two ways that we can repay him is by one, living a good life and following scripture as much as we can. I may fall short on occasion. And the second one is maximizing our God-given talents. That is the best way, two best ways to give thanks.
Oh, thank you for sharing, because I know being an attorney is a demanding thing. I've watched you do, and it's just, I can't perceive what it takes to be on top of an entire case or do a jury trial or fight through a deposition or even a settlement case. It appears that you are an attorney is a fighter in the sense of justice, freedom, rights. How does your faith involve you into doing this courageous activity each and every day like it's brand new?
It's central to it. Like, once again, one aspect of it is maximizing the gifts God's given me. Another aspect is whatsoever you do unto your, whatsoever you do unto your brother, or so you do unto, whatsoever you do to the least of my people, so you do unto me. I think that may be the biblical quote if I'm a little off, but that's paraphrasing. But the idea is that we should look after each other. I mean, now let me be very clear. Looking after each other doesn't mean leaving yourself open to get screwed. But looking after each other means using your good efforts to help the poor, the weak, to help everybody, really, across all categories. So it's very critical in life. And the other thing about it is, listen, within legal ethics and ethics are not very, but they are different things. Like my obligation as an attorney within the truth is to fight the hardest fight possible for my client to get a win of the best result possible for my client. That's my ethical obligation. So now, somewhat tinted in that is every case. I know I have ideas of the value of the case, of the potential outcomes of the case, of the likelihood of outcomes of case, not to a scientific certainty, but to a degree. And like in negotiations and such, I think having a fundamental concept of fairness can oftentimes assist you in negotiations, because it gives you credibility, especially as you develop a relationship in a community. Everyone wants that attorney who will do whatever it takes to get the result, which I will. But once you pass a certain line that it impacts your character, well, then your value of an attorney becomes less valuable, because you get a reputation does matter, and you get a reputation amongst other practitioners that this guy is not to be trusted, that this is how you shut this guy. And our practice, by and large, to be honest, most other opposing counsel I deal with are great. They're when we're in the trenches, we're fighting. I expect that. But when it's the people who yell all the time, or the people who straight out lie, or the people who make stuff up. Like I remember I had this one case, and I'm not going to name names, but this one attorney kept misciting court's rulings, and the judge knew this attorney better than they knew me. So what did I do? I started showing up with transcripts of either the orders or transcripts of the rulings, and the judge and the opposing counsel would say this. I'm like, well, no, Your Honor, share screen. Here's a transcript. Here's what you actually said. And after doing that twice, the attorney stopped lying about what was on the record. But if you don't have an attorney there to do things like that, then if that judge knows that attorney better than they know you, and especially if you're going by yourself, they're going to believe the attorney.
Oh, that's scary. Yeah. So your right to attorney should be taken super seriously. And without it, your justice could be taken away. Your freedom could be taken away. I feel that this happens to so many people. Your ability to get paid, your ability to sustain and grow your family could be all taken away just with the wrong protection, the wrong attorney, or not having an attorney.
Absolutely.
These are so important, and I don't think a lot of the people out there deal with attorneys or work with attorneys or know their legal rights or standing, when to sue, when not to sue, when to try to settle, when to bring a case. There's so much depth to your practice. Could you give us any insights, Gavin, on business in general? I know a lot of the people on this podcast, they're in the wellness sector, health sector. They're in business for themselves. Could you give them any advice as a business attorney?
Absolutely. One of the most important principles in business is document everything. So you have a lot of people who don't like sending emails, which is a red flag to begin with. So what you do is when you talk to them on the phone, after you're done with the phone call, send them an email memorializing the conversation. You want everything in writing because you don't want a judge to have to, or a jury to have to decide which one of the two of you is telling the truth. Another one in business is when people get too friendly, when they try to make it not about business but about personal relationships, and they do things like mimic. This is actually a psychological manipulation tool, but like they'll just repeat back to you the things you're saying because they're trying to build closeness. Make business business. Don't make business personal. Even if it's your brother or your sister or I'm not going to say mom because of my mom, but even, no matter who it is, let business be business and have well-drafted, well thought out, comprehensive contracts before you do anything. Because people are like, oh no, I can trust him, blah, blah, blah. Listen, by you having this contract being so detailed, one, you're going to prevent litigation. Two, it could save the relationship because you guys aren't going to fight about what you thought was supposed to be because you're going to know what is. Whereas if you go in a handshake, all of a sudden, well, I thought we were talking about this. I thought we were talking about this. That's when problems arise. That's when even and I've represented a daughter being sued by her father. I've represented people suing their parents, all in business, just like because, sometimes things weren't properly documented, like in detail. So that's why the transactional side can keep you out of court, to be honest. And even more so, save you a lot of money when you get into court. But all this being said, like when people lie, So if they say, John Baxter said he could raise the dead, and you'll be like, I never said that. But you, like lies, you just have to deal with. And the fact that you would say something so profound or so significant in a matter when everything else has been documented, but that part's not documented, makes you seem more credible. Because throughout this whole process, you guys have written everything down, but all of a sudden this fraud pops out that's not detailed. Okay, that seems a little suspicious, So once again, back to the principle of you need to document everything.
There's also like knowing who you're getting into business with, right? Too, like doing a proper background check. I know I've made this mistake too many times where at face value, the person may appear to be nice, but that's not good enough. And I've had other people figure out deep things that in just doing a personal background check before going into business with someone. What's your take on that?
No, you absolutely. Even for just ground level employees, you should do a background check. But for someone who's going to have any degree of control, you 100% have to do a background check. And candidly, you, especially like yourself, John, you're the CEO, you're the shareholder, you're in your business, you're the person. Everyone's important, but it's your company. So you want to make damn sure that nothing you sign off on gives away any of your power or right as a majority, shareholder or as a sole shareholder to have your power diminish, because vision is only able to be realized if you have control over the ability to realize it. So if you give away that control, you can not only lose money, you can not reach your vision, you can even lose your business.
Absolutely. People can try to steal your business that you work so hard for. It's scary. Making profits. They see, finding the right partner is maybe the most difficult thing to do.
It is.
But yeah, in business, it's important. Could you tell us some of the unique aspects of your firm? I know you had mentioned some cool stuff like AI, and you work with people all around the world. Could you give us some insight and some background on what you do and how that works out?
Sure. AI is heavily integrated into my firm from a research perspective and from a task time minimization perspective. The one important thing I would say about AI is that if you're using it in a field that you're not familiar with, you're going to screw yourself. AI is a good launch pad. AI can break down mental blocks, but AI cannot replace someone with expertise. You have to have the expertise to know when AI is wrong. If you don't have that expertise and you rely upon AI, you do so to your risk. As far as my practice, I'm licensed in England and Wales as well. I've consulted on cases in Dubai and in other jurisdictions. We have this thing called common law, which comes out of England, which the American legal system is predicated upon, which basically the whole Commonwealth, which is all the English colonies, are predicated upon. And Dubai has a two-tier system, well, United Arab Emirates, Dubai specifically, where they have Sharia law, but they also have the DIFC courts, and the judges there's one local judge, and then two other judges are from, be it Singapore or England or wherever. So the common law holds true there. And like being brought on as a consultant in the case in Dubai was very cool. But no, and I've dealt with transactions between Asia and the Middle East, acquisitions in Europe, and various other jurisdictions. I've been very blessed with where and how I've been able to practice. Now, I will say, but the one thing, I mean, that I'm not saying that's not unique, but the one thing that's relatively unique about me is I do both transactions and litigations. What's funny, in Orlando, it was like 50-50. South Florida, it's like 90% litigation. But so, I obviously, all attorneys know the law, presumptively, but I know how these documents need to look from a business perspective, and I know what a judge is going to look at when he sees these documents. And oftentimes when you go with larger institutions, they have an attorney who's just transactional. I'm not saying they can't do their job. I'm not saying they won't do it very, very well. But that specific attorney hasn't had to argue a contract in front of a judge and get a judge's opinion on what that contract means. So that is certainly not unique, but a different skill set that I have that I think brings significant value to my clients.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And, we're about halfway through, or about 30 minutes through. If someone wanted to know more or learn more about you or reach you, how would they find you?
The easiest way to look me up is go to elliottlegal.com. ELLIOT legal.com. So my last name, legal.com. They can see me on Instagram, just type in Elliot Legal, or on Facebook, same thing. Or my personal profiles under my name, Gavin Elliot. You can find out about me as the person and attorney at the same time. We have videos up on the website. We have some of my results. We have testimonials. That's a good way to find out about me. I'm Martindale AV rated right now. Numerous awards and such. But yeah, that the website and social media is a good place to learn about me.
Yeah, and it was an honor to have you on. And we have a special guest on our show, and I've known you for a long time. I see your commitment to justice and the people you've helped in my inner circle, plus myself. I know you're a super lawyer. You're a Mensa grad. You're licensed in many countries in the world. You can do business litigation. You're a tough cookie to crack, especially because your clients are so important. And I appreciate you so much as well, Gavin. I know you're in South Florida, but you're in South Florida, Orlando, state of Florida.
Yes.
And, your commitment to your health, your faith, your family is second to no one that I've met. And that means a lot, because in the legal profession, who are you dealing with? Who's going to be there for you to fight for you when no one's looking? Who has the capability to understand and understand the law, understand the judge, and work out really great scenarios. So, it's definitely an honor to have you on. I just wanted to say, if there was any last thing you could say or touch on that you'd like to touch on with the audience.
Yeah. Listen, there is the old adage, ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So make sure that if you're in business, you want your agreements to be airtight. Don't rely upon forms. Don't. AI has its uses, but honestly, if you don't, sometimes you don't even know the questions to ask. So don't rely on the AI. Use an attorney, because the cost that you put out up front will be realized a great savings in the back end. Also, you want an attorney who believes in you and your cause of action. You don't just want someone who's going to run up a bill and have it be a mechanical process. You want someone with passion, a fighter. You in transactional or litigation, to be honest. Now, of course, I know the right times and when to fight, and like that quote from Roadhouse, "I'm nice until it's time not to be nice." You gotta be a nuanced fighter. But yeah, do it in the front end so you don't suffer in the back end. Would be like the biggest advice I can give.
Well, there you have it, Gavin, Elliot. Thank you for sharing with my audience the stuff you do. It was an honor to have you on, and I know people out there could get a lot of help from you on many different levels. And appreciate you so much, Gavin.
Thank you, brother. I do too, John. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, and Gavin has also his own podcast, if you wanted to touch on that as well.
Sure. We're going to publish 2 weeks from now. Go live. We have a reserve. I'm not as brave as John to go live, but it's called the Florida Forge, and the purpose behind it is to learn the stories of the businesses and the people and what drives them, and also ultimately what their legacy is to be for the state of Florida. I love this state, man. I've traveled a lot, and I'm always happy to come home. So I like talking to people like you, John, like everyone else I've spoken to, who they are building something in Florida for our future, as you are with your businesses, man. So yeah, that's what the podcast is about, the Florida Forge podcast.
All right, now we know how to find them. Website is in the link below. You can share, like, comment this podcast. Someone is in need. Someone needs help. And you have a good protector here with Gavin. I want to say thank you guys all. And thank you, Gavin. And we do shows once a week. So catch us on the next show. Thank you guys so much. And we'll be around. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. All right.